we are officially, as I wanted to put in our test episode, which I really liked how I said it. I said blast off. And that stuck with me. The Baap Re Baap podcast is officially online.
It's crazy.
You'll be happy to know there's exactly 0 followers, 0 listeners. Worse. So
yeah, I mean, like, do you think I want to listen to you and you want to listen to me? Nah, we're the only ones who actually really want to listen to each other. No one else actually cares.
Well, yeah, this is an excuse for us to talk to each other without our wives, respective partners telling us, y'all talk too much and y'all talk to each other too much. Now we get to talk too much to each other and say we're doing something with it.
And not set it up on like an Apple calendar date that we missed. Now we don't have to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Right. 100%.
Now we're actually going to do it. So we were 0 for 1, which is hilarious. But,
well, hey, at least we tried.
We did. Yeah, we did.
For all the listeners out there listening to episode 1 officially, first of all, thank you very much, all 3, 4, 5 of you that may listen to this or more. My name is Amit Majithia, and I am your co-host for the Baap Re Baap podcast.
And I am Neel, Amin. And we are very, very fortunate and blessed to be able to do this and kind of come around to doing this. And we think, like he said, the 3 or 4 people that are listening out there.
Some of you may be wondering why we set this up or why we even bothered to create a podcast in this day and age, especially when every single podcast possible is available out there. So we'll go into a quick overview of why we started this, where the name Baap Re Baap came from, and truly what exactly we're hoping to accomplish through this podcast or through the 3 or 4 listeners subscribing to us. We hope that you'll give us your credit card numbers right off the bat, though it's not required. Kidding. I'll start with my end. The Baap Re Baap podcast, before it was even a name, really to me started as an emotion. And what I mean by that is I continuously find myself wanting to have real emotional conversations. It's what fills my cup. It's what I crave in my friendships. It's what I want in my everyday interactions. And it is also something that is a bit of a downfall for me personality-wise, because I struggle to then build connections over small talk. And I remember...
Not true. That's not true. You've built plenty of connections.
I can make small talk. I'm talking about the ones that, that mean something, right? And I remember telling your wife this. I was like, I crave this, and it bothers me when I can't have real conversations with people. And
as it
I think
should.
It's also important to define what real conversations mean, right? Because real conversation can mean something different to everyone. And what we're going to focus on, what we're going to try to talk about a lot of, is sort of the ugly side of healing, of therapy. And that is the side of why you're trying to heal in the first place, the trauma that comes out of whether that's losing someone, grief, relationships, whether that's familial, friendly, or intimate. There's a lot of emotion that we go through. There's a lot of grief that we go through, a lot that we hold on to. And I think what's unique about our generation is that we are sort of that bridge, that gap between, hey, you have to take all of this trauma and you have to figure out where to put it. You have to figure out a way to heal through it, to get past it, so that you're not passing it on to your kids. Meanwhile, you're also the one that has to sort of match the previous generation, right? You and I both have experiences. We've lost our dads. That's going to be something we talk about. We're going to talk about grief and losing our dads. So hopefully it won't get too emotional, but if we do cry, we apologize ahead of time.
Man, it sounds like you're already getting emotional, dude.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I know.
I'm
And I
just
remember texting
joking.
you when you and RJ both, when I first had this idea for the podcast, and I was like, hey, look, I really want to talk about this. I really, really want to put out there in the world the idea of being real. Not even the idea, sorry. I want to turn it from an idea to being a real thing. Let's be real with one another. Let's talk about the difficult things that we don't often bring up, the sensitive topics that we're told as Indian quote unquote men. And I say that in quotes not because we're questioning our gender, but because we're questioning what it means to be a man in this day and age, from both a societal perspective, but also from a progressive perspective. So this podcast will not be filled with edits or clickbait that we're trying to get from you all. It's going to truly just be authentic. We are two really good friends who have way too much time on their hands, apparently, or we've somehow
Only
made
one
time.
of us.
Yeah,
Only one of us. Yeah. One of us is just all doing something all the time, and one of us is not. We'll let
yeah.
you guys decide,
You
or
you will
we'll
you
let
will
each
either
other
figure it
decide.
out
I
or you
guess I
won't.
don't
Maybe that can be like our first survey too. Like, who do you think is?
know.
I don't know.
Nah, they don't want that.
They
I don't
didn't
know
want
if we.
any
I
of
don't know.
this. We're still
I don't
here
know if
anyway.
we. I don't know if we don't. I don't know if we want that. That's the problem. Uh,
Probably not. We probably don't want the answer, so it's a blind survey. Maybe
yeah.
we'll see. Um,
To ourselves.
if it sounds like this podcast doesn't really have a goal, it's because we didn't walk into this with one. We didn't walk into this with, we want this podcast to take off and we want to have all these celebrity guests on there and make a bunch of money from it. In fact, it's the opposite. We wanted this podcast to just be something that you can come and listen to, hopefully relate to, maybe even converse with us if you need to. But we want you to take away the benefits of being real and authentic with the people in your lives. And more importantly, have someone to relate to, because it's not easy to navigate some of these topics. It's not easy to talk about family and the expectations
Yeah.
and what they say to you when you're trying to just feel an emotion, because you're getting so many different pieces of advice, like grieve like this, mourn like this, it should look like this, and here's how you should be, and how you can navigate that. It's tough, and those are some of the things that we are going to be touching on. Anything you want to add, Neil?
No, I think you covered it all, man. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, you know, ditto to what we're trying to do with this. I'll talk a little bit about why I'm here. Um, to be quite honest, I have no idea why I'm doing this. This is going to be a really difficult thing for me. Between the two of us, you are definitely the more open when it comes to emotions, and I think that's the beautiful and scary part for me, is that um, when you presented this thing, I jumped at it, had no idea why I jumped at it. But then when I got to recollecting, like, why it made sense for something like this, I think it's pretty easy that we need it. Um, we need it. And by we, I mean us two, both need it. In the grand scheme of it all, like being 36, if I, yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, I'm a middle-aged man. What do you mean? Uh, um, fuck you. If man, I hate that you think I'm old. Anyways,
First of all, let's clear that up. It is not subjective. You are old, period, and that's okay. You know, it's
well,
not something I think. It's something you are, and that's okay.
well, see, you saying that is now going to crush at least half of our maybe demographic. So there goes that. Anyways,
It was fun while it
but
lasted for 9
we're off
minutes.
to a roaring start. No, but to be quite honest, when you presented this, I think it's a no-brainer that we needed this. We needed something like this. there's probably podcasts out there that do something similar, but I think the idea of it being for us, uh, two Desi guys, Indian guys, whatever you guys want to say, brown guys, whatever, right? Um, I think if I could have told myself at 10, 15, 20 even, something like this was out there able to be listened to, 25 even, shoot. Now I'm making myself look old. But if I was able to tell myself that there was something out there to listen to, that there's two guys that could actually um, share their perspective on things that they're going through. And I can't say every single person has ever gone through this, but we've talked and we kind of share similarities in what we've come across in our lives. And obviously, there's a lot of learning to do. We're not anywhere near perfect. We're not saying that whatsoever. I know that. But I know that for us to do something like this is you use this word and it's courageous, because it doesn't seem like more people are talking like this. And um, it just sounds like I'm tooting my own horn or our own horns, but we're not.
Please don't say you're tooting my horn. That's that type of podcast.
But no, I just think that it's good for us to, like you said, talk real, which in a lot of our days, in a lot of our society, maybe doesn't do that enough, right? With either close friends or close relatives or whatever it may be, like whoever it may be. I think it gives us a chance to actually show that it can be done and hope that people get something to take away from it. Um, so for me personally, I thought about this a few years ago doing it. I was too chicken shit scared to do it by myself. But I'll tell you that when you came up with it now, suggested it and shared it, um, I will use what I used then. I will say the word. I butt scooted my way into this, and I'm so happy I did, because I think it'll give me a chance as well to do something where I'm very uncomfortable doing, and that is opening up, and actually opening up. I think it's easy for me to do off whatever, and I'm not going to think that we're talking into a mic, but I am talking to you.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of it. And I'm excited for the journey.
You and me both. And I think that's we're going to acknowledge the elephant in the room, and that is that we're not doing this scripted. We're not doing this
I
because
think they got that.
Yeah, the ums and ahs probably gave it away
I
right
think
away.
yeah.
Not I want to be very, very, very clear about how we intend the structure of the show to look like. And that structure is that there isn't one. We're not coming into this with a particular outcome in mind. We are just two guys who've had certain life experiences that we hope can provide some perspective, or might be something you can relate to. So each episode title will have a different topic that we're going to tackle. Today's episode, for example, is called "Why Don't We Talk?" And that will be the focus of that episode. There's no necessary a topic A, B, and C that we're going to cover. We're just going to talk through what our experiences are. So, full disclosure, we are not in any way certified to tell you what to do or how to
No.
handle your life.
Oh God,
Nor are
don't.
we telling you that you should emulate us, because we're idiots.
Yeah,
We're morons that started a podcast for
I'm
apparently no
not a
reason.
moron. I'm not.
He's
I'm
right.
just
He's not a
kidding.
moron. He's an old moron.
Yeah, no, these are not opinion. These are our own perspectives, not opinions. We're not, don't come at us with some political correctness. Like, we're gonna be like, when we talk about, we're gonna be real. This is as real as we're gonna get. And so be kind enough to just allow us to be, because we're gonna do that with each other. That's who we are. So
Yep. And hoping we can do that either for you directly or indirectly. That being said, I mentioned what episode 1 topic is. Why don't we talk? And really the breadth of that is to talk through what is it that prevents us from having real conversations, whether that's with our friends, with our family members, with romantic partners even? Why is it that we hesitate? What and I think there's a lot that goes into this. I mean, there's psychology, there's trauma, there's just so much to unpack here. And I think if I'm gonna, I'll kind of kick us off with focusing on one key area that was a major factor in my life. And part of the reason why I didn't talk, and just to be clear here, when I say not talking, it's not truly like I cannot verbalize. It's more so
No,
the
you
actual.
can verbalize. You are very good at
Trust me,
verbalizing.
my wife tells me all the time that I don't know. She doesn't know where the off button is and trying to get me to talk.
That's not your worry. That's not a problem for you.
It's not, but I think that's where I, chose the path of a podcast. No one can shut me up. I mean, I guess technically they can't play me either, but whatever. But what I mean by not talking, I mean, what is it that prevented me from having real conversations? What is it that prevented me from expressing my true feelings about a certain situation, person, etc.? And the first topic area or focus area that I'm going to hone in on here is expectations, specifically family expectations. So for those of you who don't know me well, or don't know me at all, because it's not like this is something I hide. My dad passed away 12 years ago, and he passed away as a result of cancer. Now, 12 years ago for me was a very pivotal time in my life, because that was when I was 20 years old. So if you're doing the math, yes, I'm about 31, 32. I'm not exactly spring chicken either, but I'm still not 36. So that's that.
How do you not know your own age? You just said 31 or 30. Get one.
I'm gonna be 32.
You talk about my
in 2 weeks. I'm gonna be 32.
Yeah,
so I'm like 31 and 0.9. Like,
nah, you
for all my
basically
gujus
32.
out there, it's like 31 bear 2 and 32 Dory or whatever the heck that our parents used to say.
Nah, bro, you're 32. You might as well just consider it 32. Right. Let's run with that.
Remember, 32 is less than 36.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm good at math. There's no disagreeing with that.
Hey, I'm glad. So 12 years ago, in 2 weeks, I'll be 32. So 12 years ago, I lost my dad, and it was a very pivotal time because it was literally beginning my 20s. And one thing to note there is that it wasn't like it happened overnight. It was I'm going to say 2-year process, as if that has any sort of bearing on what this actually. Basically, it took him 2 years. He had cancer. He was diagnosed with it in like 2011, passed away in 2013. And folks, I want it to be clear: comedy, deflection, these are my coping mechanisms. So I'm not trying to make a joke of my dad.
I was just about
away.
to say you should probably not laugh at cancer.
I'm trying not.
but I know you in terms of
exactly. I just wanted to be clear before people think that I was sitting there laughing or pissing on my dad's grave or ashes or whatever. My dad was actually my best friend, and I mean, Neel, I just shared recently with you the letter that I wrote to him after 12 years because I finally gained the courage to. But
that letter was still something. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will.
I will. I know I will. I'll talk about that with you for sure.
So going back to why I was struggling to have real conversations. 18 years old when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, when I dropped out of college, when I came home and started working full-time, taking care of bills, taking care of family. And all that I heard around me, anytime that I cried, anytime that I was sad, anytime that I was upset, was a continuous, hey, you need to be strong for your dad. Hey, you need to be strong for your mom. So what that told me continuously was that my emotions in that moment or in that given situation really don't matter in comparison to what might be going on around me. And this just scaled, right? I mean, I'd love to sit here and say that I grew up in a household where we talked about emotions a lot. I think we did compared to most. When I have conversations with you, with others, tells me that we did have more emotional conversations in my household. They weren't healthy ones. They weren't around my emotions. They were around my mom's emotions, my dad's emotions, because he was upset with what I was doing or he didn't like something I did.
Do you think they recognize that you had emotions? Do you think that Indian parents, yours specifically,
Sure,
obviously, but
sure.
do you think that your parents had any, I don't want to say, of course they knew that you had emotions, but do you think that they recognized in terms of like, yeah, this is my child, of course he carries emotions?
I think that they recognized that I had emotions. I don't think they were ready to talk about them. I don't think they were informed and this again, another disclaimer, just because I ain't trying to catch heat. It isn't
Catch the
me
heat, dude.
catch the heat. Sorry, I'm old. I don't
No,
know how these
catch the
things work.
heat. No,
Catch the
you
heat.
catch the heat. Don't worry about not catching the heat.
Oh,
Catch the
catch
heat.
the heat. Oh, you're telling me
Yeah.
that. Okay. I guess here it comes. It's not about me bashing on my parents or because I have some sort of I do have a complex, but that's not the complex we're addressing today. I don't think that they had the same resources, right? And not I know for a fact they didn't have the same resources we do, which is part of the reason why we have that burden of elevation with our generation. But they certainly didn't have the resources we do. They were immigrant parents trying to make a living, trying to make ends meet, trying to give me the best life possible. I was an only child, am an only child. And to balance all of that in a brand new country where you barely speak the language and you are, let's be real, the underdog, right? And
Yeah,
as
in that
much as
time.
we talk
Yeah.
about in the political world, and I don't want to dive too deep into politics, but racism today, it was
Way different then.
it was way different, and
Yeah.
that's me giving the perspective from my experiences. It's not to take away from anyone else's experiences or to say that racism isn't active today. It's more so to speak to the fact that back then the racism was not so subtle. It was much more apparent. It was the opportunities weren't as present as they are now because let's face it, Asians weren't as successful in the early 80s and 90s, at least not as visibly successful as they are now.
We're still on the come up.
Yeah, we were still on the come up. We were
I
still on
mean,
the
yeah.
boat. We were still on the boat coming over.
To be honest, yeah. I mean, think about it, in the 80s and 90s, yeah. We were still on the come up.
Exactly.
We didn't establish
So
anything
early
here.
2000s, even less than, parents are just trying to make ends meet. Right? The economy is what it is, but they're just trying to make ends meet. So to balance all of that, but then on top of that, to sit there and be like, yeah, son, talk to me about your feelings. Tell me what's going on.
Could you imagine?
No, I cannot. I truly cannot.
I mean,
isn't that crazy though? Like,
but we wanted it. We needed it.
We did, and that's unfortunately where we are today. And that
Funniest
is
part is if we had that, we wouldn't be creating this podcast. So
yeah. So I guess thank you, complexes.
Yeah, right. Thanks, parents.
Thanks, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So no, I didn't grow up in a household where we talked about my emotions. We talked about what my emotions and my actions were doing to my parents because I was giving them more stress or I was making them look bad in front of other people or I wasn't fulfilling what they had worked so hard and came to this country to do. I wasn't fulfilling that. I wasn't paying that back enough. So it was difficult for me to then pick all of that up at 18. And what I basically saw around me was like, you don't talk about your emotions. You bury that shit down because what you got to do is you got to go and pay the bills. You got to make sure that car don't get repoed. You got to make sure the house don't get foreclosed on. You got to make sure the bills get paid. And your emotions just aren't that important, right? It's not the worst thing that's happening around you.
Yeah. Makes it sound like it's like taking away.
Yeah.
Right. It makes it sound like it's taking away from what's
Something
supposedly what's supposedly real or what's something else you could be doing. Like those aren't real.
Tangibles.
Yeah,
Tangibles.
it's crazy.
And I think that for our parents, that's what mattered a lot is things that they could see, do, hold, not talk about. Right? That paycheck or moving something from here and there, the physical world, a physical dominion, if you will.
Yeah, that's my complex. That's funny that you say that. So.
I can't wait to get into that. So to wrap up what I was trying to essentially say, because I could talk for hours on this and any other topic that we're going to be bringing to this podcast, but essentially it started with not having that safe space, not having that knowledge to be able to communicate. to then translate it to, all right, you've got all this grief and trauma. Again, it don't matter because you got to provide for mom. You got to take care of mom. And I remember the last 2 weeks of when dad was here, he, one of our, I really, really, really hate that this happened. And I also hate that it was true. But basically, one of my family members came over and whispered in his ear and said, hey, don't worry about your son and your wife. Like, we got them. We'll take care of them. And it was shortly after that day that he passed away. And there's that old folklore, right? Like the soul's finally ready to let go because it was holding on to us and all of that. I don't know how much I buy into it or don't buy into it. Maybe it's a part of my coping mechanism not to buy into it regardless. One of the last things he said to me when he still had recollection of who I was like, hey, you got to take care of mom. Nothing else mattered, right? My emotions didn't matter. My grieving didn't matter. What I was going through with my friends or my girlfriend at the time, it didn't matter. Like, I got to take care of mom.
It's a heavy burden to carry at that time.
At 20, right? Like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
20,
you don't even have your own legs underneath you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I still don't. Like, I still got chicken legs, but that's fine. And again, this is not for me to sit here and, you know, put myself on a pedestal or to make myself look better. It's just me sharing my experience. Familial expectations, because that only grew from there. That at that point, mom was my priority. So I couldn't talk to mom about dad and how much I missed him, right? Because she'd break down. She'd be crying. So I couldn't talk to my friends about it as much. Like, and I think that's the beautiful thing about these shared life experiences is you find people out there that have been through what you've been through, but you also find people who haven't. You gain perspective from both. But at that time, I was just looking to be seen.
Yeah.
I was looking to be heard. I needed someone to hear me. And
what did that do to you? Sorry, what did that do to you?
You don't have to apologize. We're talking.
I know.
What did that do to me? It...
You can say things like, set a reminder.
Oh, man. I said sorry, and it heard...
It heard Siri.
Siri. That's funny.
That. Hey, that's
wow. Stop it. You stop it.
What?
Okay. Stop it.
Siri wants to get in on this. Bring her in. Bring her in.
Oh, that could only happen to us. Anyways. No, but like not having that, right? How did you take it? What came about it? What came from it?
There was a lot that came from it. Oh, man. Okay, so I think it started with me feeling alone. And that quickly developed into, hey, I can only rely on myself, really, right? Like only I understand me, only I got me. And no one else is ever going to be able to meet me, right? When I say meet me, I mean that in a few different layers. I mean, meet me as in meet the real version of me, because there's all these emotions that I ain't showing no one else.
Right.
Meet me as in understand me, get me.
Yeah.
And then lastly, meet me as in someone I can lean on, someone I can rely on. That's what I mean by, and there's layers to all this shit, man.
Yeah, you set an expectation on what you needed then.
Yeah, and I also quickly told myself it wasn't going to be met, and that's not to anyone's fault, right?
No, I mean that makes sense though because of how you were feeling.
Yeah.
You're 20 years old, man.
Yeah. Yeah. 20 years. God, fuck. I don't even remember. I don't remember most of my 20s. Mostly because
I mean that's because you may think I'm 36, but like deep down inside you're older than I am, so your memory loss is way worse.
Yeah,
so.
man.
No, I'm just
Silver
kidding.
Silver Fox all day. Oh man,
you are a silver fox.
It was going back to mom. It was. I think of all the things that I repressed and didn't talk through, not talking to my mom about my emotions. Now I can say this, and now I understand this. is actually one of my regrets. I think I was doing right by me to not talk about it. Like, even to this day, mom will bring up dad like he's still here. Super freaking casual. She'll just be like, oh yeah, Asul loved this, or Asul did that, and Asul would do that. And I'm just like, every single, and this is 12 years later, mind you. Now, granted, no, I haven't probably put in enough work to go to grief counseling or whatever the fuck. But to this day, when she mentions his name, I cringe. Not in like a, I don't want to hear his name, more in like a, like it hurts me still, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you don't ever recover from that. But I think the real aspect of that is I'm just like, why are you talking about him? Like, he's not here. Like, right? Why are you talking
that's
about
funny
him?
because we do the same. I do the same thing. Yeah, that's funny.
And so not talking to my mom or not talking about dad openly, I think really led to me holding it in. That started with being told by my family, and mostly by my family, frankly, hey, you got to hold it. And it's let's be real, it's also not like our generation, it's the older generation, like, hold it in, keep it together, you got to take care of the family, you got to do this, that, and the other. It came from childhood, and all of that led to me just not opening up, me not being real. And then when I came across when dad passed, and truly at that time, let's be completely honest, no one can really help. It's something you got to go through on your own, right?
There's no one that's gonna, there's no one to be, I mean, this is how like I think of it, there's no one that's gonna come and save you from something like that, right? And nor should they. That's just a part of quote unquote life, or your life, right? So
and that's the journey I had to go through to get to where I am today and who I am today. Would I change that? I wouldn't change the journey. I would change how the journey started. Obviously, it'd be great to have dad back, and still learn the same lessons. But that's me wanting to, make the world as I see it and paint the world as I see it. But when I learned that no one was going to help, it had to be on me at that point. I think that's where a lot of the repressment is repressment a word? It's not a word. Repressment's definitely not a word. It sounds like refreshment. What the fuck?
It does. Repressment is not a word, brother.
Repressment's definitely not a word. Well, that's where I began repressing.
Repression.
Repression's a word? I don't know.
Yeah. Repression's a word.
Repression's a word. But all right, listen.
Now I'm gonna feel stupid. You're questioning me. Oh my god. Now I gotta check this. Hold on. Hold the phone. Hold the phone.
You're holding the phone, motherfucker.
Yeah, right.
Hey Siri.
Yes, repression is a word. Jesus Christ. Oh man. I was like, wait, why am I getting questioned about this? Yeah, no, repression's a word.
I wasn't questioning you. I was more being like,
well, you questioned it, and I was like, wait a minute. Am I gonna sound stupid?
Probably. At some point you will.
Yeah,
this wasn't that point, but folks,
yeah.
I want you to know it will absolutely come. That sounded kind of
Thanks.
Jeez. So my focus area was familial expectations. The expectations that my elders, quote unquote, put onto me, or even forget during that time period, but also as I was growing up, what mom and dad put onto me, which was to take care of things. When I grow older, I got to take care of them. So the feelings, there wasn't really much room for my feelings, at least not the bad ones. The good ones, I'm sure there was room for. There wasn't enough room for bad ones.
Okay, so my question to you was going to be, my question to you is going to be, when did you realize that you could open up, that you were good to talk?
That's a tough question. I don't know that I can narrow that down to any one time period.
That's okay. I mean, if you can, that's fine. Just when did you realize that your ability to be okay with talking, I guess, start?
Actually, so I don't have the answer when in terms of timeline. I have the answer when in terms of life experience.
Yeah, that's perfect.
The when,
that's kind of what I wanted to know. Anyway,
fair. So the when was when I stopped caring or worrying about the perception of me in other people's eyes.
Was that your aha moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fair.
It was,
Yeah.
and I'll be completely honest even and say that it was truly within the last like year, maybe year and a half, where I've been able to develop that. I think before I know for a fact before this, I was very, very, very much about people pleasing. I was very much about making sure that I look the absolute best, not physically, but come on.
You're cute.
Do okay. What I meant by looking the best, it means no one should think less of me. No one should think I'm not capable of something.
Right.
I'm supposed to be this superhero, right? I'm not supposed to be anyone that can do anything wrong or anything bad. And any situation that potentially led me down that route, either I got out of through lying, manipulation, whatever, or I just flat out stopped doing it. And it just never could ever lead to me not looking good. And
that's actually pretty hard. That's hard to hear. I'm sure it was hard to say, so that's very good on you to like be able to say that, because people can't say that.
It's
or
liberating.
or not recognize it or be aware of it for themselves.
Well, honestly, it took certain life experiences, and as much as we preach about being real, in particular, this life experience is one that I can't necessarily reference without having the permission of the people involved. So I hope you guys don't think that I'm trying to avoid being transparent or avoid being real. It just wouldn't be fair for me to disclose certain situations that involve other people because it's their privacy too. However, it took a very specific life situation, and it also took my friends essentially telling me, hey, you got to be better. And it's important to hear that they said you got to be better. They didn't leave. They didn't drop me because they had every reason to. They stood there and they said, hey, we got your back. We're here for you no matter what. But you got to be better. You got to cut that shit out. And hearing that, and I think in that moment being extremely grateful for the people I have in my life. Shout out to my OGs. Having those people in my life really opened up my eyes to like, hey, I need to be better. I can't do this. It doesn't matter if I'm not able to do something. It doesn't matter if I don't look good here, because at the end of the day, people are going to think what they're going to think. I just need to let them. I cannot change what you think, how you think, and how you act. I have zero control over that. And also accepting that I don't have control over something took a minute. It took a lot. Because all I wanted to do was control your perception, right? That was my objective. I wanted to control your perception of me through whatever means necessary.
Yeah. Wow.
It was.
Wow.
It's been a liberating experience, I'll be honest, not having to worry. And I can't say that it's foolproof and that I do it every single time. I think it still creeps back in, having to worry about what other people think. But I think for the most part, I'm able to talk myself back from that.
Yeah, funny enough, it's because you're human. Yeah, so it allows you, crazy, isn't it? you get to do that, but you're also very aware of it. So that's a very good thing. I think when you see it, it's funny that people don't have to call you out on it. Like, I don't call you out on it. I think you call yourself out on it. And I'm just like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're full of it right now. So it's good. It's good. You should, right? I mean, that's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Because the weight of that, like, what we don't know then, we know now. What we needed to know then, obviously we didn't. Yeah. Right. But the weight of it, I bet, it's taxing. That's like unnecessary stupid shit that you put on yourselves. Like, it is. It's unnecessary stupid shit. Trust me, I've done it too, and that's why it's like, it's unnecessary stupid shit that you think you have to do, but you carry it so heavily you don't even realize it at the time.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's doing to you at that time. Yeah.
I also think it's important to note that it wouldn't have been possible. And this is not me sitting here trying to be like, oh my God, I'm the perfect human being or amazing human being. That's not the case. It's shattering through that wall of expectations and the inability to have those real conversations. It wouldn't have been possible if I didn't start having them. If I didn't start having those real conversations, not only with myself, but with those around me. And that's when I started to actually feel comfortable, not only with emotions and thoughts, but also just with myself as a whole. So I think I've taken over a majority of this 40 minutes that we've been talking so far. So
we don't have a time frame. That's the beauty of
that
this.
is the beauty of this. However,
however we need to do it, we do
the
it.
3 listeners we had, yeah, they gave up like 20 minutes ago.
We're not on a radio show, so I think we're okay. And 2 of them are here. This is when we get views, it's gonna be me clicking. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do it once. I couldn't even do it for our tests.
I know.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was
so weird.
Funny. That
funny is
an understatement.
An understatement.
Almost got you in trouble there. We
dude, let's not get into that.
Nope. We deleted that test video for a reason. We did put up some test videos, folks. Our test.
You know, the funniest part is you showed people and I didn't. I was like, no, you can't. And you were just like, hey, can you take a look at this? And I was like,
it wasn't my confessionals that I needed to worry about. It was your confession.
It wasn't my confessional either. It was just, I didn't think anyone would see the light of day on it.
Yeah,
So
well, there you go. So I present to you this same question. I focused on the familial expectations and why that led to me not wanting to talk. So to you, the same question, why don't we talk?
For me, it was very close to home. Why it's still hard for me. You'll get to know that. You know that already. Whoever wants to listen will understand that it is hard for me to be eloquent in talking about this stuff. I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
The beauty is you don't need to be, right? That's the whole point of this. You don't need to be a certain way. Just say what you want to say.
Thank God, because I learned, well, you're 32. I probably learned it at 32, which is hilarious. That I don't need to be a certain way or do a certain. I'm still getting used to being in my skin, but yeah, I think I broke that notion then. But for me, it was much more close to home. This is hard for me to talk about because it just brings back a little bit darker stuff. But just as a disclaimer, I do love my dad. So a lot of times when I do talk about my dad, obviously, I haven't made it known to you, but I do love my dad. And I've gotten a chance to see it a lot differently, especially with both my parents. But once my dad had passed, it was definitely a different perspective that I've gained in these last, especially these last 4 or 5 years. For me, I didn't have as much time as you did with your dad's passing. Mine was much more recent, and 6 years now. But for me, why I didn't talk or why it's so hard for me to talk was because I never saw it at home. When I talk about not even seeing it, it's like, dude, my dad was he had feelings, a lot of big emotions, and it was a lot of big anger. But for my mom, it was always just shut down. What was the word that you used? Repressment? No, it was much more of a repressing thing for her. Not when one person is very loud, the other person tends to kind of be quiet.
Especially when the kids are around.
Especially when the kids are around. And for her, it was always to do the motherly thing, and it was to, not escalate situations. Nope. And even if whatever I witnessed, and I knew, doesn't mean we talked about it. Yep. Because it was always acted upon as though the kid doesn't know.
Yeah.
And we're not going to ask him because he doesn't know. So if we don't talk about it, he's definitely not going to talk about it. It'll be fine. In which case now mine and my mom's relationship is a little bit funky. I'll use that word, but it's because she thinks that I didn't know as much as I did, um, in just terms of how they worked and what they said or didn't say, or how many arguments they had or didn't have, or whatever the case may be. But um, for me, it was always just everything's got to be kept in house.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you got going on, you don't say it to anybody outside because no one needs to know that. If they do, what will they think? All that jazzy business. So it's like whatever feelings or bad things or emotions, you bury the hell out of them. You
Mm-hmm.
shut that shit down
Mm-hmm.
and you look away from it. My dad, obviously, as young men, uh, for me, I'll speak. I don't know about everyone, but for me, as a young man, I looked at my dad. I looked at my uncles. I looked at my grandpa. Those were the figures that you kind of like, oh, this is the lead, right? This is who you're kind of going
This is the blueprint.
with. Yeah. And everyone around me was, you don't talk. You just don't say the shit that you need to say. If you're feeling hurt, if you're like, why are you just sporadically getting angry? Like,
Yeah.
did something happen?
Right.
If something happened at work, you go home and talk about like, hey, something happened at work. That's kind of just normal. But for us, I feel like it's not normal. Especially for me, it was just never seen. So like, if now knowing what I know, it's like if someone was affecting you, if it was family, if it was your friend, if it was work, whatever the case may be, if it was affecting you, you can figure it out and understand it. But for me, it was when my dad got home, it was like whatever the hell happened out there,
Came inside.
you don't know what happened. It just kind of blew up
Yeah.
to here.
Yeah.
And then you see it as a kid. But the thing that I didn't notice was when I didn't take my dad's thought of it. I took some parts of my dad, but when it came to talking, I took my mom.
Mm.
And what I saw from my mom was, you can't say anything. Don't say
Mm-hmm.
anything. Whatever you're feeling, you inhale that, you gulp that down,
Yep.
and then you definitely don't tell outside what's going on
Yeah.
in your home.
Yep.
Right?
Yup.
You cannot tell your friends. Why would you say that to anybody?
What are they gonna say about our family? What are they gonna think?
What are they going to think? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's no society. Society will look. I'm like, what society? Nowadays, I just joke about that. I'm like, what? I never. So like, I never knew what society was, and I didn't realize it until I got older. That in India, like the giant like apartment complexes is technically known as a society, and I'm like, like this is America. That doesn't exist here, right? So for me, I'm like, society, what are you talking about? There's like 300 million people out here. What do you mean? What will they all think? That's gonna freak me out. I'm like, dude, I can't say anything to nobody I come across. Like, that's wild, right? So so that kind of stuck around with me a little bit. But yeah, it was just like any sort of thing that you see or went through. Like, I remember vivid memories of it. Hell, even uh, like, I'll share a story with you. You probably didn't even know this, but um, I had a library book. It was about McKinley, I think that's his name, who climbed Mount Everest. So I had a report to do, and I brought a library book home. But my parents they worked at this convenience store. So I went right after school. I would walk over to their convenience store, and my mom was going home, so I was going to go home with her, and I was just waiting outside. I ended up having the library book in my hand, and I left it on top of, like, I think it was like a newspaper thing or a phone booth or something. You show how old I am, but when little phone booths still existed. But I left it on top of that. Got home, and then I checked in my backpack. I was like, oh my God, where's this book? Like, where is this? And couldn't find it. Couldn't find it for the longest time. I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. your first instinct as a kid is to go to your parents
Right.
and be like, hey, like this happened. What do I like? Where was it? Do you know? Did you see
Help
it? Do
me.
you have it? Something, right? Help me, right? So, but I wasn't freaked out telling my mom. So I told my mom, I was like, hey, I need this book because I got to do this report. My mom's first instinct is, well, she's an Indian woman. So her first instinct is, dude, this is your education. You're going to fail. You're just completely down the drain, right? It's like, what are you doing? You're going to fail this thing? What's wrong with you, right? So I was like, I hope not. I don't know what to do. But then she's like, what's going to happen? I was like, well, if I don't find it, it's lost and I have to pay the library at school, right? Whatever the book cost is. And she's like, Neel, no, that's not good. Why, how did you lose this? What did you, right? It wasn't like, all right, let's calm down. Let's try and figure it
It
out.
wasn't
But
supportive. It was almost
it was,
shameful.
yeah. And I get it. I mean, again, like you said, you know, the thought process for them was way different. It was much more survival mode than it is, you know, anything
There
else. It
was
was
no
day
room
to
for
day. It
failure for
was
them.
like, yeah, there's no room for
Yep.
failure. It was,
Yep.
we got to make it. We got to provide for our kids. We got to, you know, do all those things. Even $5, $10, $15 was hey, I need to think about it before, you know, especially for my mom, it was one of those things. But, so this book was like a big deal. Had no idea. Waiting around, dude. It was like 8 o'clock hit, 8:30 hit, something like that. So the store closed. My dad comes home. Now I'm sitting there freaking out. I got to tell this guy too. My mom's like, you got to tell dad. It's like, ah, man, I can't tell dad. Come on, dude. I know this guy. He's gonna, God.
That's about to
All
get
right.
a can of ass whooping.
Yeah. So like, just, I guess I'll say this before I get into it, but, this is a disclaimer just in case this might get a little traumatic, but anyways, so my dad comes in and I see him carrying his like lunch bag, whatever. And then to the side, I see this book and I was like, this fucker's got it. He's got it. So he doesn't say a word. He goes into his room, he changes. And then I hear, hey, Neel. Bro, I was sitting on the couch. I get up, walk into the room. I was like, yeah. He goes, do you have a report or something to do? And I was like, yeah. He goes, didn't you have a library book or like something, like, what's your report on? So he started asking me like unassuming questions. I was like, oh, it's about this. And I knew where it was leading to in my head. I was probably like 8 or 9, but, yeah. So, and then he pulls out the book from behind his back and he's just like, oh, this book? And I was like, yeah, that's the book. And he goes, oh, you know where you left it? And I was like, no, I was scared that I had lost it. Like, and he goes, oh, he put it on top of the telephone booth. Luckily one of our customers like brought it in and showed it to me. And I was like, oh, thank God. He goes, what would have happened if you had lost it? I was like, we would have had to pay for it. He goes, oh, okay. No, I would have had to pay for it. You wouldn't have done anything, right? And I was like, yeah, I guess. So then, then it's the whole, hey, come into the closet with me. I was like, oh, brother. All right, first and only time he's ever done this. And my dad, when it came to me, he was very much more like the yelling type. He would never like, he would lay hands sometimes, but it wasn't like very, very big or very bad. And you got to remember, Indian parents, I'm sure you've gone through this. It's like you get smacked, right? In the 90s, you get smacked as a kid. Like, wouldn't do that now, but you get smacked as a kid. So for dumb things. But but like, so walked in and then he closed the closet door. My mom, I saw it from the corner of my, we lived in an apartment, so I saw her from the corner of my eye. She like came around the corner and she said, I can't help this kid. You know, you just see the mom look and you're just like, oh man, you got to do it, son. So, he takes his belt, hits me right across my shin twice. He goes, I hope you remember this and I hope you stop forgetting leaving a book like that. And then I started crying because it hurt, right? I'm a kid. I'm 9 years old. It hurt really bad. Like, there are times where I think about it and I'm just like, man, dude, like he walloped it. took it, cracked it, smacked it, right?
Sounds like a cereal.
Yeah, it
Crackle
does,
pop.
right? Snap, crackle, pop. So it hurt a lot. And as a 9-year-old, your first instinct, if you get smacked, you're going to cry. My dad's go-to move was always to stop telling me to cry. It was always stop crying. Stop crying. For me, when that happened, it was like I didn't eat. I still remember that. That's one of the most, like, as a young kid, that was a very vivid memory. I didn't choose to eat. I went in because I couldn't stop crying. Only time I could stop is when he would just like really raise his voice and tell me to stop crying. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, but tears were flowing, but I'm just gonna cut it out. So I just went straight to my room, and then went straight to my room and got into my bed, and my mom came in probably like 20 minutes later, and the door was open. So he's like in my room. So she came in, left the door open, and I was sitting there under the covers, like crying, like like muted cry, but I was crying. I couldn't like help it, right? And she just like, do you not want food? Are you not going to eat? And I was like, no, I'm trying not to cry because the door's open. So I don't hope that he hears it, because it might just yell again. But it was very like, move past it.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
just stop. And my mom was, she's not going to sit there and do that, because then she would have to hear it from him, or vice versa, or whatever, right? And she was kind of in a precarious spot of like, she probably cared, but at the same time, she was like, well, I don't really know how to go about this. And so she came in, asked if I wanted food, and I was like, no, I'm okay. And then I just kind of, I was like, please just close the door so he doesn't hear it. And I said that really whispered, and she walked out, closed the door, and I just like, I can remember bawling. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes to show, like, and this is like where, as an adult now, I feel a little bit differently about my dad. And my mom, both. It just, like, for my dad's sake, he was, when I was in my teens and in my early 20s, it was more so him being the reason as to why these things didn't happen. When it was both of them, but at the same time, I'm not blaming them. I'm just learning a different version of them. And again, where does it stem from for them was that could go to their generation, right? Like, what it took me time to realize was, well, imagine if I couldn't talk, he definitely couldn't.
It's the
right?
generational trauma.
It's yeah. I mean, and like, depends on how far back it goes, right? And so, like, as much as, to be quite honest, even now I think about it and I'm like, what if my dad didn't actually like that?
Yeah.
But that's his response.
That was what
Right?
he
So
was taught to do.
that was what he was shown. That was
moment.
his
Yeah.
only thing he was shown,
Yeah.
right? So, or that was what he was taught, or, and everyone around him was like that.
Yep.
Imagine that. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know if there was anybody in his life that was probably like that. So, for me, I like, now I get to say this, and it was like, why I didn't talk was because, well, he didn't show me, or there was no one around to show me, right? But then again, I was pissed. Whenever I had my aha moment of like, well, fuck this, I'm gonna, it's okay to share, it's okay to talk to people, it's okay to let people in on even the ugly, bad stuff. It just was very hard for me to sit there and not be angry with them, being like, why the fuck didn't you guys allow me? The funniest part is I had a moment with my mom doing that, and it was like, dude, you guys didn't do this shit for us. Like, you didn't allow the space to be there, or allow me to, like, why am I this way? It's because you,
Right.
like, you guys didn't do that shit.
Yep.
But then again, it's like, after my anger subsided, I sat there and I was like, wait, they didn't have that. And it was people like RJ, who's my wife, and you and, you know, people around me more and more that I get to realize and see these things. But it's like, yeah, they didn't have that. My dad was sitting there probably worse off than I was. Hell, I mean, clearly it was worse off than I was.
Yeah.
Right. So like where did it spawn from? Why is it like, sure, it's on us to, at least we realize, at least we get a chance to do that. Where the hell did it spawn from? Why was it such a, I guess not taboo, but like, why the fuck don't you? What is, God gave us this, or, you know, universe, whatever, gave us these vocal cords to communicate, to be able to express, a brain to be able to express, you know, ears to be able to listen, and eyes to be able to see things in a different version, in all sorts of versions. But like, where did we go wrong in terms of why even a generation and I say this because like I told you this in terms of, why do we carry that burden? Why do we have to be the generation to change? Why wasn't it you guys, right? I can say all that shit. It is what it is. I know the truth behind it. It's like, yes, this is our time. This is when it was supposed to happen, right? My whole thought is, why was it even a thing? Why was it even, yeah, why was it even a thing
Why did it become an
for
obstacle in the first place? Why did it even come to
because,
fruition in the first place?
yeah, because, well, in general, like, and this is what makes me sad. And it's like, I feel really, again, I used to be very, very differently towards my dad, but I feel very sad for him.
Yeah.
I feel very distraught for him. I don't know if I can sit here and say like he would want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know, but I do know, like, because he did. Right. So there's no excuse for it, but it's like, I feel bad because why didn't he get a chance to have it look differently, or
To explore it like this.
hell, I don't even, I don't even care about if he didn't even have it to explore like this. It's, why didn't he have a chance to see it differently? Why wasn't there anything done prior to being able to like teach in a different way, or see it in a different way, or feel it in a different way? Whereas that's kind of like what they saw, and that suck. That breaks my heart. It sucks.
Yeah.
Like, there's no rhyme or reason behind it, because there is, but I won't know that, right? But it really, like, it's heartbreaking
I think.
because,
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, I think this brings up. I'm gonna pause there for a minute because I think it brings up two very important topics. So a few points when I was listening to you share that, that immediately came to mind were two concepts: the idea of regulation, self-regulation, emotional regulation,
Mm.
and the idea of reflection. Those two things. I don't think that generation understood or really was given the opportunity to self-regulate when it comes to emotions. They didn't know how to handle it. They weren't taught that. You said it yourself, right?
Yeah. I don't know how to self-regulate. Like,
It's tough.
what does that even mean to them? It would be like, what would that even mean?
It's just words,
right?
to them, right? It's fancy words
Yeah.
to them.
Again, their baseline was survival mode.
Exactly. They didn't have
Right.
outlets. They didn't have. I mean, their outlets more often than not of that generation, alcohol, right? Which is why we saw a lot of the things that we also saw with uncles
Yeah.
and parents and whatnot.
I mean, they had outlets. The problem wasn't that they didn't have outlets. It was more so, it was like, to me, I believe that it was more so that obviously they just didn't know.
Mhm.
And I mean, how can you expect that if they're just learning how to be in a new country,
Yeah,
all
right.
in and of itself, right? So, yeah, I would, like I said, it took me a while to not blame, which is what I used to do. It was
Yeah.
very much more like, dude, you did this, you caused this, and now I understand it a lot more, like, in a lot more compassionate way, I think.
I can fully understand that. It's
especially with my dad.
I think we spend a lot of our time when things happen, when we're hurt, right? It's what are they, the 7 stages of grief or whatever, and we spend a lot of time in anger. I feel like anger is something that you can actually do something with it, right? You have someone to blame, you have someone to be angry at, and it actually feels like you're working towards something versus some of
Yeah.
these other stages that don't feel like you're really working towards anything, like negotiation, things like I don't know. Anger to me, especially given we're members of the Dead Dad Club, the DDC. Anger to me was one of the easiest.
Still find that so weird.
It is. Hey, it's a membership that you don't want, but you don't have a choice but to be in at times.
It's funny you talk about that. You like you and RJ just talk about it so lightly, and for me, I'm just like, still haven't accepted it. What are you talking about, DDC? Nah, I don't know.
Trust me, I would love to give this card back. I cannot, obviously. It's not something that's in my control. So at what point through your grieving did you realize it's
that I could talk?
It's maybe not grieving, maybe the better word, because it sounds it could have happened even before your dad passed, but before or after, at any whatever point in your life that you said, hey, this isn't normal. We should be talking about our emotions. We should truly let this out.
Yeah. Okay. So there have been many failed relationships. A lot more again. So self-reflection is one of the things that you noted, right? So self-reflecting, especially the last 3-ish, 4-ish years. A lot of failed relationships in terms of because I couldn't be vulnerable. Not couldn't. I didn't let myself go there because again, it was just from that perspective of don't let anyone in, essentially. Don't make sure you hide that stuff, so vulnerability for me was really hard, and to be quite honest, it drove a bunch of my relationships. I mean, like past, like girlfriends, exes. It drove me on to, like, how I would act. I mean, everyone wants, when it comes to a relationship or dating someone or whatnot, you want to get there, right? You want to be able to fully feel like yourself, be yourself, and fully allow yourself to just the ugly parts that you're hoping that they accept. The funniest part is now looking back on all my past relationships, no one did not accept me in that way. But I just wouldn't allow myself to get there. So if I didn't accept it for myself, how can someone else? Right. So even like during those times, I know that wasn't the case. When it came to me finding a common ground with my dad, or a older-ish relationship when I got older, it's like close to me being, it was around like 28 to 30-ish when I moved to Chicago. I made it a point to myself to be very forthcoming with my parents, and for sure, especially my dad. I think for a lot of those times I was very muted against him. So I would see him, raise his voice, and then everyone else would just have to shut the hell up, So when he started, like, if I would be on the phone with him or whatnot, and I would hear him like starting to raise his voice, if my mom was talking to me or whatever, and I can hear him in the background, and be like, give it to him real quick. Like one of those, like, give it to him. If you want something to say, like, give it to him real quick. So then I would be like, she would give him the phone. And I was like, why are you yelling? And I would just like go off on him. And like punch, essentially, like punch back, not
Mhm.
not defy him.
Right.
It would be more like, hey, you're stepping like here. So then when I would like punch back, he would kind of recognize that and be like, wait a minute. And it was funny. I didn't like the first couple of times that happened, he just kind of like gave the phone away back to my mom and like maybe muttered something or whatever, right? The more and more that kept happening, he would kind of be like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, then he would talk to me in a way of like, I wasn't yelling. I was like, yeah, no, you were. And then I would meet him at his level of like, hey, what are you doing? You know? Um, and I didn't recognize it at that point, but that's when I started finding my like, okay, you're finding a little bit of your voice. You're
Yeah.
finding a little bit of your like, hey, what's coming around, right? Now, when it came to the last 3 to 4 years, this was after my dad's death. I just remember like having one of those kind of moments. It wasn't with anybody. It was just driving and I was just sitting there. Sorry.
You're good.
We'll cut that part. That's the second. I don't know why everyone just decides to call now.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was just driving and I thought to myself, I still remember this. I was like, why do I care so much about everyone around me? In a way of like what they think,
Mhm.
what they think I'm going to say. What if I do say something bad? And I still go through these moments, right? You know this
Mhm.
very often because you tell me this all the time of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And in my mind, I'm always like, well, I have to be, this goes back to the expectation. So it goes back into like, you have to be, tidied or perfect, or like, you can't say something that people will latch onto
Yep.
and, use against you,
Yep.
or say something to everyone else and,
Don't ask,
whatever
don't
the case
feel.
may be. Yeah. So I started doing that in my life of like, my friends get to know me. If they can show up for me at times where I think it's ugly or I think it's bad or whatever the case may be, like, why can't I show up with them in a like, hey, I'm not feeling good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling depressed
Right.
or whatever the case may be. So first time I actually did this, and I'm gonna not say names for the sake of saving people, but uh, one of my exes hurt me really badly. This is very hard for me to say, but one of my exes really hurt me badly, um, based off of what they said to me, and it impacted me in a way that I didn't realize at that time. Um, they said that I was not good enough, or my and my parents, not or, and my parents were not good enough for them and their parents, right? I told this to my mom, and my mom looked at me and said, "That's fine." At then I was like livid. I was like, "What do you mean that's fine? That's not fine." Um, Visibly, it shook me. Did not realize it in that very moment, but it did. Come maybe a couple weeks later, and I'd never gone into a depressive state that I did, um, from anything else at that time. It was very like, I kind of knew where I was in the scale of like how my life had been. I had played victim mentality mind, all that jazz, right? Whatever that triggered inside of me led me to a very like, I didn't want to leave to go. I had to just do one thing, and I would go to work, and there are days where I called off. Sorry if my boss ever listens to this, but I called off and I bullshitted. I always
We've all
just
done
would
that.
be like, yeah, I mean, I would just lie. I would just be like, yo, I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't a lie. It was just like, I didn't have the wordage, the verbiage to tell them, my mental health was just shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can, it wasn't about what was said. I mean, it wasn't about like them breaking up with me or them not accepting me. It was more so what impact that left in terms of what it triggered for me somewhere else, right?
Mhm.
I can say that now because I
Mhm.
understand that.
Mhm.
At that time, I was like, well, why am I fucking getting so depressed about this?
Yeah.
And then I just let it happen, right? And people might think about it like that, of like, well, that thing happened, that's why you became depressed. Not that thing, I promise. It was more rooted than that, and realizing it now, which sucks, because at that time I was just like, this is stupid. I hated it. 6 months went along, and I honestly didn't see my friends, my closest, like all my boys, they know who they are. I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't do anything. I never went to their apartment. It was like months at a time. I would just like I would disappear. And even like with work, I would just be here and there, whatever. Dude, I would come home. The blinds would never be open. I would like just be chilling in the dark for the most part. And it was like a very crummy time for me. And then I don't know, something happened, 6 months, whatever the case. It was around 6-ish months, but I ended up going to one of our boys' apartments. It was my boys, Jordan, Viral, Vivek. And uh, I just remember being there in the summer, and I was sitting on the couch, and I just like looked, and I told them, dude, I'm sorry that I haven't been around. I've just been depressed. And it was the first time I actually told anyone that, like, legitimately just came out and just said it. And I didn't think anything of it. And the reaction wasn't bad. It was like, dude, sorry to hear that, man. Like, what's been going on, whatever. They wanted to know. But it was the first time I ever realized, like, it's not so bad that you can talk. It's not so bad that you can say something what you might feel is very dark, that someone else can accept as like, hey, you're just going through something. It's, maybe it seems very bad, but it doesn't have to be. But that was like the very first time. It was probably a year before, no, it was probably like a few months before I moved to Chicago in 2019. So this is, or 2017. So this was 2 years before my dad passed. So that was the first time I actually thought of, hey, and then I started to like find my voice with my parents. And then, here we are doing this. And I still have trouble. Like the whole premise when you mentioned the why we can't talk part for this first episode, I was like, dude, I still have this problem. It's okay, but it's not okay that you just kind of let it be. I think for me, it was not okay that I just let it be that way. It's better that I can bring myself to doing it. It's scary, but it's not as scary as you might think in your head, right?
I
But
think
that was my aha moment. It was sitting there being like, well, I just said the word depressed and out loud, and two people that I love, that I care for, and they care for me. They showed up at my dad's funeral, everything, and they were there, and they were the first people that I actually like said that word to. It might have been in my being for quite a bit of time, right? But first time I outwardly said that to someone, and they didn't say anything. It wasn't scary. It wasn't hard. It's hard to kind of keep going with that because you never know with people,
yeah.
but it's okay to be yourself and to kind of let that be. And that's what I'm learning. So I'm still in the process of learning.
We are all WIPs. We're all works in progress, and
Yeah.
that's okay. A lot of what I'm hearing is, for our listeners, it sounds so simple, right? Just do it, and no, it'll be
It's
fine. Do it with. I keep saying do it. Just sounds weird. Talk, and it'll be okay. Talk with the people closest to you, and it will be okay. And it sounds super easy to do, and it makes you want to pick up the phone and do it. But I don't know about you. I've had this plenty of times when I'm ready to quote unquote confess, when I'm ready to have a real conversation. Sometimes it's difficult to actually follow through on that. if I'm not being met with the energy I'm looking for. And the energy that I'm looking for is technically step 2. Step 1 is acknowledging my own emotions.
Just doing it.
Just doing it. Nike somewhere should be throwing us some kickbacks here.
Dude. If only.
If only. I mean,
maybe one day. Maybe
yeah.
one day. You never know.
They can do whatever they want to do. Yeah, I'll take some J's. I'll take some free J's any day.
That's a whole separate entity, buddy.
That's okay. Nike still technically controls it or is a part of it. That being said, I think what we really wanted to touch on in this episode was to share our experiences as to why we don't talk, why we didn't talk, and to a certain degree, why we still don't talk. Again, our objective was not to provide you with advice, because I don't think anything that we talked about was advice. If anything, it was simply acknowledging the journeys we've been on, the experiences we've had, and more importantly, explaining to you, or hopefully showing to you, that it's okay that you had all this, that you have all of this, right? Whether that's baggage, that's trauma, whatever that looks like, whatever the word you want to use, the buzzword you want to use here, it's okay. Because at the end of the day, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay if you're hurt. It's okay if you have all this trauma. But I think what we really want to encourage, maybe not advice, but what we really want to encourage is slowly but surely, gradually, in some way, shape, or form, start having those real conversations. Because why you don't talk, while that's important, isn't as important as you just talking.
Yeah. And even if it's scary, which
it is,
the reason why it's scary is because we always want to be thinking about what's going to happen if we do.
Yeah.
If you just talk, you never know what can come out of it. And it doesn't have to be anything. There's no expectations behind it. But the release you get from it could do a lot of wonders.
It can undo years of pain, trauma, hurt, insecurities, you name it.
And you never know. Again, your mind will tell you what's gonna be if you say this, or if you do talk, what's gonna happen. But you'll never know unless you actually do it.
Exactly.
And you'll be surprised at what the outcome is, to be quite honest, even though that's not the point, but you'll be surprised at what the outcome is.
And like we've been saying, we make it sound easy. We promise you it's not. It's really not. And hopefully you're blessed enough in your life to have people like I've been surrounded by, that we've been surrounded by, like our wives and our closest friends, who give you that safe space to be real. But even if they don't, try it. One day, try it with your closest friend, your partner, whomever. Shit, even message us. Goddamn, I'm always ready for a real conversation.
He is.
I am. All the time.
You definitely are. You definitely are.
Probably to a fault, but I am.
It's exhausting. I'm just kidding. It's not exhausting.
It is
it's actually
exhausting.
No, it's not.
The reality,
it may be exhausting for you, to be funny.
I think it's exhausting, period. The amount of times when I talk to people around me, right, they're like, it's easier not to deal with this because it's less taxing. It's less me having to look in the mirror. It's less so many other things that don't feel good. Even though at the end of it, it probably will feel good, but it's going to take a lot to get there. It's much easier to just go the way I've been going.
Yeah, the funniest part is not, because it'll keep recurring.
Yes.
That's the one thing I've kind of seen for myself, is that even if I thought it was easy to just, oh yeah, I can, it's fine, right? It's gonna keep on coming till you are able to kind of unwind it, unravel it. It's going to keep on keeping on. That's the beauty of it. So even if you think that, I don't have to do it, eventually it will come around.
Mm-hmm. It's probably already showing up, and we're just not recognizing it, right?
In its own weird way, it will.
I think that touches on a topic that we will definitely be covering in future episodes, but it's a great segue to end this episode. And that topic is that we are tasked, whether you want to call it a burden, an opportunity, whatever way you want to look at it, we are tasked with the opportunity of breaking that generational trauma. Let's be real, it is our responsibility, unfortunately,
Bullshit.
or fortunately, however you look at it.
I'll be the guy on the other side saying it's bullshit.
It sucks. It sucks because if we want it to be better if we're blessed to have kids, if we have kids, we want it to be better for them. It means we have to start being better today, because whether you want to consider it opportunity, a inability to look at themselves, or even not having the appropriate role models, in any case, any of the above or other reasons, our parents didn't have that. They didn't know better, quote unquote. And while we've visited multitude of reasons as to why they probably were the way that they were, we can change that. And unfortunately, it means we have to. And that is a tough pill to swallow, because it basically means you do really have to look at yourself. Like, you really have to do better. We don't want this to repeat. We don't want our kids not to be able to speak to us and hear stories about them in their podcast. I'd rather hear my kids in a podcast later about talking to them about dumb shit, not talking about shit like this where they felt like they couldn't talk to their dad or their moms, or share similar stories of emotional or any type of abuse, really. And for our next episode, because we didn't talk enough today, for our next episode, we're going
You
to
were
dive
worried
into...
about that too. That's the funniest part.
We could probably keep going. Our next episode, we're going to actually talk through the grief, specifically losing our dads. So if you feel like you want to have a good cry, maybe on our next episode, definitely tune in, because we will go over the before, during, and after of our dad's passing. Maybe even share some stories of people closer to us that we saw. And more importantly, not only how we dealt with the grief, but I think what's important to talk about is how people around us dealt with that grief, because that played a big part in how we dealt with it. So, closing us out, again, my name's Amit Majithia. This is Baap Re Baap. Hopefully episode 1 that you stuck around till the end for, in which case maybe if you didn't stick around, you didn't hear this ending, or the next episode, your loss.
Nah, it's not your loss. But we appreciate you guys, and yeah, buckle in, guys. It's gonna be a interesting ride.
It absolutely will be. And I would be doing a disservice if I didn't also say thank you, Neel, because wasn't easy to what we talked about. Wasn't easy to do all this and set all this up. But to put your vulnerabilities out there, to put your stories out there.
Awkward.
You're right. Fuck you, you piece of shit.
No, I mean, I think we're fortunate to have each other in our lives at this time for a reason. And, you know, again, we won't know it right away. It's not supposed to be known right away, but I think, you know, this is a very, very big reason as to why we're probably in our lives. Not just one of many, but, you know, not the only one, but, you know, but yeah. So thanks for joining in on this first episode. I am Neel Amin.
Blast on.
You're supposed to say your name,
I
dude.
said my name like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. And then we ran with it.
Yeah, exactly. Hour and a half later. Thank you guys for listening. Tune in for the next episode if you want to hear about our dads and how they passed, or tune into episode 3 thereafter. Or if we make it past episode 3, you can tune into that. Either way, if you want to cry, grab a box of Kleenex, join us, and we'll catch you next time.